I thought it might be better to make morning videos. That way I have more free time in the afternoon and I don't have to worry about doing it on the weekends. Hi, Celeste. Celeste, do you want to do this book about Steve Jobs, the inventor of basically Apple? Um, if not, we can change it up. But it's sort of about the invention of the iPhones and various computers. It's up to you. We can do that book if you want. But for this specific talk, the Michelson Fallacy. Back in June 3rd, 2016, I needed to find a way to explain what was happening to me because, of course, I wanted to be more transparent with the theory's development and what it's like dealing with people who are, tend to be on the arrogant, egotistical / narcissistic side of humanity. Um, it just sucks that so many of them are working in the astrophysics and higher level science departments that it's hard. It's hard looking at that and thinking there's got to be something going on here. What's going on here? Why are we having these issues? Why is something so obvious being ignored? But I wrote this Michelson fallacy here to sort of explain a little bit of it, one facet to the issue. A new cognitive bias or fallacy is given definition so that it can be spotted in the future based on the author's experience with sharing a new understanding of nature. This is from A. Michelson. While it is never safe to affirm that the future of physical science has no marvels in store, even more astonishing than those of the past, it seems probable that most of the grand underlying principles have been firmly established, and that further advances are to be sought chiefly in rigorous application of those principles to all the phenomena which come under our notice. It is here that the science of measurement shows its importance, where quantitative work is more to be desired than qualitative work. So quantity versus quality. Not quality of the work. I'm saying the act of measuring everything out is more important than figuring out why something is occurring the way it is. And then I have here, an eminent physicist remarked that the future truths of physical science are to be looked for in the sixth place of decimals. That was dated 1894. Dedication of Ryerson Physical Laboratory, quoted in Annual Register, 1896, page 159. Of course, I'll link this to the bottom. And in English, this means, I put it in my own terms, the belief that the fundamental principles of nature have already been discovered, and or if there were something important to be known, the studying physicist who claims the former would be the first to know of it. And that's really important to understand. It's a major fallacy that a lot of the astro people, they fall into. They believe that there's nothing else important to be known. And if they are to know of it, then they'll be the first ones to know of it. As well, the fundamental principles of nature have already been discovered. And that's the big thing about the arrogance of astronomers and astrophysicists. They think, we understand all of this stuff, therefore there cannot be possibly anything new to discover because we've spent so many years in school. We know all these facts that are supposedly true about the world. Nobody can teach us anything. So they don't realize that they're ignorant, which means an ignorant person would be, oh, well, what's actually going on here? They would search for the truth. They would be like, well, I want to get rid of my ignorance. They'd be like, oh, how does this work? How does this work? The problem with a lot of the physicists that work in universities, they don't think like that. They look up at the stars and they assume that what they've been trained to believe in school is what they're going to see, because they don't believe that there's anything important to be discovered. There's no transcendence there when it comes to the observations. The transcendence is removed. these days, the astrophysicists, they're trained in what is true, and then they look out at the sky at night and they say, well, does the sky conform to what I already believe to be true? If it doesn't, then I need to change what the sky is doing. And that's completely backwards. It should be, you look out at the sky at night and you make observations that don't make any sense, and then you change what it is that's true inside the textbooks, inside of what you're learning, inside of the information that you're sharing with people. But there's none of that, because they don't realize that they're ignorant. So they don't search for the answers to cure their ignorance. They just go on willy-nilly believing, stuff that doesn't make any sense. And I have here, it is not true that experts in astrophysics would be the first to know of new principles, nor is it true that they would be the first to discover them. I know this because I'm not an academic. I don't work inside these universities, yet I've discovered new principles of astronomy and astrophysics. As well, I assure you that I am one of the first people outside of them to actually figure this out, even though I'm not an academic. So it's like, it's Michelson, he had some issues. It is an illusion or fallacy to assume such, as is the case with the discovery of the fundamental principles of stellar evolution, planet formation, outlined by the author, who is an outsider. The Michelson Fallacy is an offshoot of the not invented here stance adopted by institutionalized cultures based on turf wars and tribalism. I've also noticed that as well. There's an enormous amount, I think another listener had posted this as a comment, turf wars and tribalism. These people who work inside of these institutions, they're extremely tribal. They have turf wars. They say, oh, well, what are you? Okay, you're not an expert doing that. You can't tell me what to believe or how to do things. And they sort of box themselves up inside of these worldviews that are all separate from each other. But that's a huge issue, because no physical science is separate from any other physical science. None of them are. But the fact that they separate them based off, their field of study and tribalism inside of their own research organizations, it just does us a huge injustice. And they wonder why physics is stale. It's gone stale now. They don't, the LHC project is completely lost. They don't know what to do next. They say there's nothing new to discover, but there is a lot of stuff new to discover. They have the mentality that's already been discovered. They're falling for the Michelson fallacy, the idea that's already been discovered. And this is a repeat pattern throughout history. We get to a point where these scientists, they believe it's all been discovered. There's nothing new or interesting to figure out about the world, and then they get stuck. And then a couple of years goes by, then something new is discovered, and then we go back to normal. There's a new series of discoveries that come up, and then it levels off, and then it goes back up again, and it levels off again. And that's what's happening right now, is it's completely leveled off inside of those research organizations. But it actually hasn't, because I'm trying to tell them that stars are the young planets. So if they could adjust all of their theories based off of that simple discovery, then there would be more to gain from that. But they're not going to do that. They refuse to, because there's so many roadblocks to it, and there's lots of tribalism, and there's lots of turf wars going on. But anyways, the not invented here syndrome is the stance, that's the stance that if they did not invent, discover, or understand the outside work, then it cannot possibly be valid or accurate. And that's also dealing with the tribalism again. If somebody outside of the astrophysics departments makes a major astrophysical discovery, they poo-poo it. They go, well, you're not an actual astrophysicist, so you can't have actually made a major scientific discovery concerning my field. So it's that arrogance that sort of personifies the reason why many fields of research have gone completely stale. If they would just, go next door and knock on the other guy's door, be like, hey, listen, I have a problem with this, what do you think how do you think you can interpret it a different light? Because they have a different field of research, but they don't do that. They keep themselves inside of boxes. But anyways, I think that's good enough for this morning. All right, take it easy, y'all.